But if some of you softies insist on sleeping on the bed, I reckon you can do worse than a Luffler Easy Rest. End of commercial.
Andy Griffith felt like family. For millions, he wasn't just a TV star. He was Sheriff Andy Taylor. Calm, kind, steady. The man who made Mayberry feel safe when the world felt loud. His career spanned decades, from comedy to drama, from black and white TV to modern screens. But near the very end of his life, Andy made one final television appearance. It was quiet, emotional, and easy to miss. No big goodbye, no applause, just a moment that hits harder once you know the truth behind it. And once you see it, you never forget it. Join us as we revisit his life, his legacy, and the final moment that quietly closed the book. Growing up on the wrong side of the tracks. Andy Griffith was born on June 1, 1926, in Mount Airy, North Carolina. He was the only child of Carl Lee Griffith and his wife, Geneva. Life did not start easy for him. As a baby, Andy lived with relatives for a time because his parents could not yet afford a home of their own. There was no crib, no bed. For several months, he slept in dresser drawers. It sounds shocking now, but that was the reality of the world he was born into. In 1929, when Andy was just 3 years old, his father found steady work as a helper and carpenter. That small bit of stability allowed the family to buy a home on the blue-collar south side of Mount Airy. Andy grew up knowing exactly where he stood in the social ladder. He was very aware that many people saw him as a kid from the wrong side of the tracks. He was shy in school and kept to himself at first. But something changed when he discovered he could make people laugh. Once he saw smiles and heard laughter, he slowly came out of his shell. Music also became a big part of his life early on. He listened closely and soaked it in. Those sounds stayed with him, quietly shaping the man he would later become. And without knowing it, Andy was already learning how to connect with people in the simplest way, by making them feel something. Finding his voice through music and the stage. At Mount Airy High School, Andy's world began to open up. He developed a strong interest in the arts and joined the school's drama program. Music, especially swing, grabbed his attention and never let go. Andy was raised Baptist, but one of the most important figures in his life came from the Grace Moravian Church. A minister named Ed Mickey led the church's brass band. Mickey didn't just lead, he taught Andy how to sing and how to play the trombone. More than that, he believed in him. Mickey nurtured Andy's talent all through high school, right up until graduation in 1944. That guidance mattered. Andy often looked up to him, not just as a teacher, but as someone who saw potential where others might not. Around this time, Andy was offered a role in The Lost Colony, a play about Roanoke Island that is still performed today. It was a huge moment for him. He stayed with the production for several years, playing many different roles. Slowly, he worked his way up until he landed the role of Sir Walter Raleigh. That part carried weight, especially in North Carolina, where the capital city is named after Raleigh. The stage became a place where Andy felt at home. After high school, he attended the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. At first, Andy planned to become a Moravian preacher, but life had other plans. He changed his major to music and joined the Carolina Playmakers. He earned a Bachelor of Music degree in 1949. While at UNC, he became president of the Phi Mu Alpha Sinfonia fraternity, a group dedicated to men in music. He also performed in several student operettas, including The Chimes of Normandy, The Gondoliers, The Mikado, and HMS Pinafore. Each role helped sharpen his skills and confidence. After graduating, Andy didn't rush into fame. Instead, He taught music and drama at Goldsboro High School. One of his students was Carl Kasell. During this period, Andy also began to write. It felt like everything he had learned was slowly lining up for something bigger, even if he couldn't yet see where it would lead. From country humor to Broadway and the big screen. Andy Griffith's career took a major turn when he began performing as a monologist. He created a character called Deacon Andy Griffith, an easygoing country parson who told long, funny stories. One of the most famous was What It Was Football. In it, Andy's character tries to understand a football game, with confusion and charm driving the humor. The monologue was released as a record in 1953. Soon after, Capitol Records reissued it, and it became a hit. By 1954, it reached number 9 on the charts. The B-side featured the same character explaining Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet in a rural dialect. Andy brought this act to television variety shows, where audiences quickly warmed to his style. In 1955, Andy starred in a 1-hour TV play called No Time for Sergeants. He played Will Stockdale, a country boy in the U.S. Air Force. The role struck a nerve with viewers. Later that year, Andy took the same role to Broadway. It earned him a Tony Award nomination. He didn't win, but he did receive the Theatre World Award. A New York Times critic wrote, "All he has to do is walk on the stage and look the audience straight in the face." That line captured what made Andy special. In 1958, Andy reprised the role in the film version of No Time for Sergeants. The movie also starred Don Knotts, beginning a lifelong association between the two. That film later inspired the TV show Gomer Pyle, USMC. Andy's only other New York stage role came in the musical Destry Rides Again in 1959. The show ran for over a year and earned Andy another Tony nomination. Warner Brothers then cast him in the military comedy Onion Head. This time, the film did not succeed. It wasn't a hit with critics or audiences. But by then, Andy had already proven something important. He could connect with people. Whether on stage, on record, or on screen, he felt real. And just as his career was gaining shape, something even bigger was waiting just around the corner. A shocking turn. In 1957, Andy Griffith surprised everyone by making his film debut in a role that was nothing like the warm figures he would later be known for. In A Face in the Crowd, Andy played a drifting country boy who was charming on the surface but deeply manipulative underneath. His character slowly gained power as a television host and then used that fame as a path into politics. It was a sharp, unsettling performance. The film was directed by Elia Kazan and written by Bud Schulberg, with a strong cast that included Patricia Neal, Walter Matthau, Tony Franciosa, and Lee Remick in her first film role. Years later, Andy reflected on the experience in a DVD documentary. He recalled how Kazan carefully prepared him for his first scene with Remick, who played a teenage baton twirler that instantly caught his character's attention. Andy also shared his belief that the film became more appreciated over time than it was when it first came out. That role showed something important. Andy was not just a gentle storyteller. He could play dark, complex characters too. And just as audiences were processing that side of him, television was about to change his life forever. Finding his place on television. Andy Griffith first appeared on television in 1955 in the 1-hour teleplay version of No Time for Sergeants on the United States Steel Hour. It was his first step into the TV world, and it made an impression. 5 years later, in 1960, Andy appeared on Make Room for Daddy, starring Danny Thomas. In that episode, Andy played a small-town sheriff who also happened to be a justice of the peace and the editor of the local newspaper. The story followed Thomas's character getting stopped for running a stop sign in a quiet town. That episode mattered more than anyone knew at the time. It served as a backdoor pilot for a new show. Both programs were produced by Sheldon Leonard, who saw something special in Andy. That single episode planted the seed for what would soon become The Andy Griffith Show. It was the moment where Andy's calm presence, gentle humor, and small-town style finally found the right home. The pieces were falling into place, and soon Mayberry would open its doors. The Andy Griffith Show. In September 1960, Andy Griffith began starring as Sheriff Andy Taylor on The Andy Griffith Show on CBS. The show was set in the fictional town of Mayberry, North Carolina. Andy Taylor was a widower, a sheriff, and the quiet moral center of the town. He didn't rule with force. He led with patience and common sense. The show was filmed at Desilu Studios with outdoor scenes shot at 40 acres in California. From 1960 to 1965, Andy's longtime friend Don Knotts co-starred as Deputy Barney Fife. Barney was nervous, loud, and often wrong, but deeply loyal. Early on, the show described Andy and Barney as cousins. In the very first episode, Barney calls him Cousin Andy, and Andy replies with Cousin Barney. Later, the show dropped that idea and simply said they had known each other since childhood. Ron Howard, then known as Ronnie Howard, played Andy's young son, Opie. The show became an instant hit. While Andy never received writing credit, he worked closely on every script. Don Knotts earned multiple Emmy Awards, and Frances Bevier also won an Emmy in 1967. Andy, despite being the heart of the show, was never nominated during its run. In 1967, Andy was still under contract for another season, but he made a difficult choice. He decided to leave the show to focus on movies and other projects. To ease the transition, Ken Berry was introduced as a major character. Producer Sheldon Leonard then launched Mayberry RFD as a summer replacement in the same time slot. The plan worked. The audience stayed. Andy served as executive producer, reviewing scripts weekly, and guest starred in 5 episodes. The pilot even showed Andy Taylor marrying Helen Crump. Though Andy had stepped away, Mayberry never fully let him go. And years later, neither did the fans. Matlock and the final television years. After leaving The Andy Griffith Show in 1968, Andy started his own production company in 1972. He starred in several television series over the years, but none reached the same level of success. Then life slowed him down in a serious way. In 1983, Andy spent 7 months in rehabilitation after suffering leg paralysis caused by Guillain-Barré syndrome. When he returned to television, he did so with quiet strength. In 1986, Andy became Ben Matlock in the legal drama Matlock. The character was a country lawyer in Atlanta, Georgia, known for his southern drawl and his habit of winning every case. The show aired on NBC and later ABC, running until 1995. By the end of its first season, it became a major ratings success on Tuesday nights. Andy once again connected with audiences, this time as a sharp but humble lawyer. Though the show earned 4 Emmy nominations, Andy was never nominated himself. Still, he won a People's Choice Award in 1987. Over the years, Andy made appearances on many other shows, including Gomer Pyle, USMC, The Mod Squad, Hawaii Five-0, The Doris Day Show, Here's Lucy, The Bionic Woman, and Fantasy Island. He returned as Ben Matlock on Diagnosis, Murder in 1997. His final guest starring role came in 2001 on an episode of Dawson's Creek. It was a quiet ending to a long television journey, and as his on-screen presence faded, viewers were left looking back, wondering how a shy boy from Mount Airy became someone who felt like home to millions. Television films and the darker side of Andy Griffith. During most of the 1970s, Andy Griffith spent much of his time working in television films. These were not light roles. Many of them showed a very different side of him. He appeared in The Strangers in 7A, Go Ask Alice, Winter Kill, and Pray for the Wildcats. That last film was especially important because it marked his first villain role since A Face in the Crowd. Soon after, he leaned even further into darker territory. In Savages, a television film based on the novel Death Watch, Andy again played a villain. He also appeared as the father in a PBS adaptation of 6 characters in Search of an Author, directed by Stacy Keach. These roles surprised viewers who still pictured him as Sheriff Andy Taylor. In 1981, Andy earned his only Primetime Emmy nomination for his role as the father of a murder victim in Murder in Texas. 2 years later, he gained strong praise for playing a cold, homicidal villain in Murder in Coweta County, alongside Johnny Cash, who played the sheriff. Andy also appeared in major television miniseries like Centennial, From Here to Eternity, and Roots, The Next Generations. In Washington, behind closed doors, inspired by Watergate, he played a former president loosely based on Lyndon B. Johnson. Each project pushed him further from the safe image people knew. And yet, these darker turns kept him relevant at a time when many stars faded away. Missed series, film flops, and surprising comebacks. Many of Andy's television movies during this period were meant to launch new series. Some came close, others failed fast. Winter Kill led to Adams of Eagle Lake, which was canceled after just 2 episodes. In Street Killing, Andy played a New York City attorney for the DA's office, but that project never became a full series either. NBC tried again in 1977 with 2 films, The Girl in the Empty Grave and Deadly Game. Andy played Police Chief Abel Marsh, a tougher version of Andy Taylor. The ratings were strong, but the show still never happened. During this time, Andy also appeared in 2 feature films that failed at the box office. In Hearts of the West, he played a crusty old Western actor alongside Jeff Bridges. Later, in Rustler's Rhapsody, he played a gay, villainous colonel opposite Tom Berenger. Both films flopped, but they showed Andy's willingness to take risks. After another short-lived series, The Yeagers, Andy returned to guest roles on popular shows like Hotel, Fantasy Island, and The Love Boat. One Fantasy Island episode featured him as a version of Judge Roy Bean. Another appearance became memorable because pop artist Andy Warhol appeared alongside him. In Fatal Vision, Andy played an attorney, a role many later saw as a clear step toward Matlock. In Crime of Innocence, he shocked viewers again by playing a hateful judge who harshly punished young offenders. In Under the Influence, he portrayed an abusive alcoholic father. Later in Gramps, he became a mysterious and dangerous grandfather. He even played a comical villain in Spy Hard. These roles proved something important. Andy Griffith was never stuck in one lane, no matter how much people wanted him to be. Late career films, music, and a quiet goodbye. In his later years, Andy slowed down but did not disappear. He played Jake Peterson in A Holiday Romance and appeared as the head of a troubled Southern family in Daddy and Them. In Waitress, he played a rough-edged diner owner who forms a bond with Kerry Russell's character. His final role came in Play the Game, a small independent film where he played a widowed grandfather returning to dating after 60 years. The cast included Rance Howard and Clint Howard, both closely tied to The Andy Griffith Show. Alongside acting, music was always part of Andy's life. He sang in many roles, including A Face in the Crowd, The Andy Griffith Show, and Matlock. During his TV peak, he released an album that included The Fishin' Hole, the theme song he sang himself. Later, he found great success recording Christian hymns. His album, I Love to Tell the Story, 25 timeless hymns went platinum and won a Grammy Award in 1997. In 2008, Andy even appeared in Brad Paisley's music video, Waitin' on a Woman. Music, faith, and storytelling stayed with him until the very end. And as his career quietly came full circle, fans were left reflecting on how far he traveled from Mayberry and how much he revealed along the way. Speaking of which, did you know that Andy Griffith's personal life was far more complex than the calm image he showed on screen? Love, family, health, and a silent goodbye. In 1945, while studying at the University of North Carolina, he became a member of Phi Mu Alpha Sinfonia, a music fraternity that reflected his deep love for music. In 1949, Andy married Barbara Bray Edwards. Together, they adopted 2 children, a son and a daughter. For many years, they built a family while Andy's career was growing fast, but the marriage ended in divorce in 1972. Not long after, Andy married again. His second wife was Solika Kasuto, a Greek actress. That marriage lasted from 1973 until 1981. In 1983, Andy married Cindy Knight, whom he met while she was part of the cast of The Lost Colony. This marriage lasted until the end of his life, and Cindy remained by his side through his later years. Andy also became a grandfather and had 3 granddaughters through his daughter. Behind the scenes, there were also complicated moments. According to the book Andy and Dawn, The Making of a Friendship and a Classic American TV Show, Andy had an ongoing affair with Annetta Corso during their years working together on The Andy Griffith Show. The book claims it was an open secret among cast and crew, even though Andy was married at the time. As he aged, health issues became a major part of his life. In April 1983, Andy was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome. The illness left him unable to walk for 7 months due to paralysis in his legs. Years later, in 2000, he underwent quadruple heart bypass surgery. In 2007, after a fall, he needed hip surgery. On July 3, 2012, Andy Griffith died at his home on Roanoke Island after suffering a heart attack the day before. He was 86 years old. His death certificate listed long-term heart conditions as contributing factors. In line with his wishes, there were no public services. He was buried quietly within hours. Just like many moments in his life, his goodbye was calm, private, and without fanfare. The last episode of Mayberry and Why It Really Ended. For many people, The Andy Griffith Show feels like a safe place frozen in time. Andy Taylor, the widowed sheriff of Mayberry, was more than a character. He felt like a guide through a simpler world. The show also featured Opie, played by a young Ron Howard, along with Barney Fife, Aunt Bee, and a rotating cast of familiar faces who made the town feel alive. The show first aired on October 3, 1960, and ran for 8 seasons, ending in 1968 after 249 episodes. It was always a ratings success. In fact, the final season finished at number 1. That makes the ending even more confusing to fans. The truth is, the show was not canceled in the usual way. Andy Griffith himself wanted to move on. He no longer wanted to be tied to the role, even though it made him famous. Network executives did not want to lose Mayberry, so they found a compromise. Just 5 months after the final episode, a new series called Mayberry RFD was launched. Andy and Opie were written out, and new characters were brought in to carry the story forward. Familiar faces still appeared, and Andy even guest-starred from time to time. The new show ran for 3 seasons before ending for good. In many ways, Mayberry RFD became a long, slow goodbye to the town audiences loved. Years later, Fans were given one more reunion with Return to Mayberry in 1986. But the final episode of the Andy Griffith Show itself did not feel like a dramatic farewell. There was no big ending, no speeches, no tears. It simply stopped. That quiet ending mirrors Andy Griffith's own life. He stepped away gently, leaving behind a legacy built on warmth, restraint, and the feeling that some goodbyes do not need to be loud to be felt. The final season shift no one talked about. By the 8th season of the Andy Griffith Show, something felt different, even if many viewers couldn't explain why. The show was still a massive success. It was even ranked #1 during its final season. But behind the scenes, Andy Griffith had already decided he wanted to move on. He no longer wanted to stay tied to the role of Andy Taylor. To make that change easier, the show quietly began shifting its focus. A new character named Sam Jones was introduced, played by Ken Berry. Sam was a widowed farmer raising his young son, Mike. Their relationship closely mirrored what viewers had grown used to with Andy and Opie in earlier seasons. This was not accidental. Episode by episode, Sam and Mike began to appear more often. Andy Taylor was still present, but his role slowly changed. Instead of leading every story, he stepped into the background. He offered advice. He guided others. He supported instead of steering. The change was gentle and almost invisible at first, but by the end of the season, it was clear the show was preparing Mayberry for life without its sheriff. That quiet transition made the final episode feel less like an ending and more like a handoff, setting up what was coming next. Inside the series finale, Mayberry RFD. The final episode of the Andy Griffith Show was titled Mayberry RFD, and it did not focus on Andy Taylor at all. Instead, the story centered on Sam Jones. Sam is preparing for a visit from his friend Mario Vincente, who is traveling from Italy to help on the farm. Sam expects one guest. What he gets is 3. Mario arrives with his sister Sophia and their father, completely changing Sam's plans. At first, Sam is unsure if he can handle all of them. The situation quickly becomes messy and unpredictable. But in true Mayberry fashion, things soften with time. The Vincenti family begins to win over the town. Familiar faces like Aunt Bee and Helen Crump welcome them warmly. Longtime characters such as Goober and Howard also appear, giving the episode a sense of familiarity. But 2 absences are impossible to ignore. Opie is not in the episode. Barney Fife is not there either. Their absence is never explained on screen, and for many viewers, it left a noticeable emotional gap. Andy Taylor appears only briefly throughout the episode. When he does show up, it is mostly to offer Sam guidance as he struggles with the decision to let the Vincenti family stay. In the final scene, Andy brings Sam to a town meeting where the Vincenti family is officially welcomed into the community. The episode ends there, not with Andy and Opie, not with Aunt Bee in the kitchen, but with Sam, Mike, and a new family stepping forward. The show doesn't pause to reflect. It doesn't look back. It simply moves on, signaling the end of one era and the beginning of another. The rap party that broke Ron Howard's heart. While the series finale felt calm and almost distant, the real emotional ending happened behind the scenes. Ron Howard later spoke about this moment in a 2023 interview with Graham Bensinger. At the time, Ron had grown up on the set of The Andy Griffith Show, but he explained that while filming the final season, he wasn't deeply upset about the show ending. He was getting older. He was focused on school, sports, and his future. He said he didn't feel tormented by the idea that the show was coming to an end. That changed at the rap party. The rap party was meant to be a celebration. the cast and crew gathered together one last time. There was laughter. There were shared memories. There were also tears. At some point during the evening, Andy Griffith took the stage to speak. His words carried weight. He explained why it was time to say goodbye and thanked everyone for their dedication. As Andy continued speaking, the room grew heavy. For Ron, the reality finally set in. He later said, "I just started sobbing." Not quiet tears, full sobbing. In that moment, Ron realized the show wasn't just ending as a job. It was ending as a way of life. He had spent his childhood there. The cast and crew were not just co-workers. They were family. Don Knotts, especially, had been a huge part of his life. Ron later explained, "I realized I was leaving something behind that was more than a job. It was a way of life." Andy's words were filled with gratitude and warmth, but for Ron, they also carried finality. He admitted that suddenly, he didn't know what it would feel like to not have the show, or those people, in his future. The end that wasn't really the end. Ron Howard later realized that while the show ended, the relationships did not. He stayed close with Andy Griffith and the rest of the cast throughout his life. Years later, he returned to Mayberry to play Opie once more in the reunion movie Return to Mayberry. At the time of the wrap party, Ron believed he was losing something forever. But in many ways, he wasn't. The friendships lasted, the memories stayed, and his career continued to grow in ways he could never have imagined as a child on that set. The ending of The Andy Griffith Show was not loud. It was not dramatic. It did not give fans the goodbye they expected. The final episode passed the torch quietly. The real goodbye happened in a room full of people who had built something special together. The tears, the speeches, and the shared silence told a deeper story than the finale ever did. Mayberry didn't end with a final lesson or a closing shot of Andy and Opie walking home. It ended with a shift, a quiet step aside, and a group of people realizing that something rare and beautiful had come to its natural close. Do you think The Andy Griffith Show ended the right way? Or should Andy and Opie have been part of the final goodbye? And which moment from Mayberry still feels the most emotional to you today? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more incredible stories from Hollywood's fascinating history. See you next time.